This video contains massive spoilers for Chainsaw Man Volume 7. I don't plan to hold back much at all, if anything. So if you haven't read it yet and you don't want to be spoiled, then maybe you should turn back now. Get out of here. Go find another video. There's lots of cute shit on YouTube. Bye. Hi guys. Okama Otaku here, leader of the Chainsaw Pirates. Welcome back, and thanks for joining me. We are here to talk about Chainsaw Man Volume 7, entitled In a Dream. And in this review, we're going to be covering chapters 53 through 61. And this is going to be the beginning of our first mega arc of the series, which is the International Assassins arc. And I don't know if mega arc is the correct term for it, but I'm going to be calling it that because this arc will be covering all of Volume 7 and also all of Volume 8. So get you some water, get you some chips, get whatever you need, and let's buckle in because it's going to be a lot. Okay, and so as per the norms that I am trying to establish here, we're going to start this chapter review off with a quick look at the cover art, which you're going to hear me say it every time, as usual, is fucking gorgeous. Fujimoto, you don't miss, man. I don't know if you ever watch this review, you probably won't, but I want you to know, I think that your art never fucking misses. Like, it's incredible. A lot of times, you know, in the actual chapters, it can be gory. It can have a lot going on because of the nature of the series. It's a bloody, gory series, but it's always so pristine despite that. And your cover arts are just, your cover series of art is just so emblematic of like the quality of your art. And so this cover, it depicts Denji, and he's in the center. He's been chained up by someone's entrails, like their guts, like their intestines, and those entrails spread out in multiple different directions. And in between the entrails, like forming almost like panels of a chapter, we can see someone named Master. We can see someone named you can see someone who is described as the older brother of a person named Aldo. We can see an eye-patched woman named Quan Chi, and we see an old man who is referred to as Santa Claus. Freaky shit. The background of the cover is this very nice light green. Then the title logo is actually dark teal with the artist's name both in English and Japanese being yellow. It's a gorgeous color, you know, pink and green and yellow, and you know, a little white there. And I want to say for the first time, this is actually the first time a cover art features characters that we have yet to meet in the story. Suffice to say, everybody depicted on this cover goes on to have major implications on the arc. Let's get into it, y'all. I can't wait. And so, after the battle with the Bomb Devil ends, news spreads about Denji, and he finds himself as the target of multiple assassins from all over the world. In particular, there will be 4 units of people who are going to be going after him in this arc. And in my first couple of volume reviews, I got into the habit of listing the characters who will be present in the arc and things like that. I kind of got away from that because it was a bit cumbersome, and you know, I'm gonna address those people in the review anyway, so it's fine. But for this one, I'll say that the panels on the cover page are indicative of the groups that will be following him. So there is a woman who's referred to as Master, and she's going to have a guy, Tolka, with him. There is the old man, Santa Claus, who is chilling. There is a guy whose name is Sato, I want to say. He is a member of a 3-brother group of assassins. He's on the cover page. And then there is the eye-patched woman on the cover page named Quan Chi, who carries around, not carries literally, but has a group of female fiends that she just keeps with her at all times. Each of these 4 groups will become, each of these 4 units, I will call them, because one of them is a single person, so he's not a group, but each of these 4 units will be the ones that are after Denji for this entire arc, and boy, it's going to be a doozy. So, when you last joined me, Rize had just been put into the ground by Makima before Denji, thinking that Rize had stood him up, decides to go home with power. And now we're going to see what new adventures await them. We open with chapter 53, titled In a Dream. And in this chapter, we open to Denji having another nightmare of Pochita's voice telling him not to ever open the door. In the morning, he sits and he's thinking of how Aki's coffee reminds him of Rize, and the fact that she just completely irreparably, totally destroyed his heart. Which, it's understandable. He actually thought that he liked this girl more than Makima, only for her to reveal that she's yet another person out to take his heart, kill him. Afterwards, Makima invites the three of them, Aki, Power, and Denji, to go on a paid vacation with her, and that turns his mood right around. So, Aki agrees to go, while Power tries to think of a reason not to go. As they talk, a swarm of devil hunters enters the room, and Makima shows them a video of the Rize fight and explains that Chainsaw Man's existence is now known to the world, and that the vacation she suggested to them is actually just a ruse in order to explain their absence, but that in reality, they're going to be put under basically 24-hour protection to protect against more assassins, and Denji realizes that he's about to lose even more of his freedom for a significant amount of time to come. So, Makima asked Aki to join the protection team and to stay alive until next year when they plan to finally hunt the Gun Devil. And this makes Aki think of a conversation with Angel, flashback, who explains to him that when a devil dies on Earth, they are revived in Hell. And when a devil dies in Hell, they are revived on Earth with no memories of Hell. But he reveals also that all devils remember the same sound before they die in Hell. And that sound is the sound of Denji's chainsaws. But he asks Aki not to repeat that. So, we cut to 3 hunters in America as they discuss how killing Denji and bringing his body back will earn them $2 million. The youngest of those three, Aldo, fears dying, and the brothers talk him down, and the leader, Sato, refers to the three of them as immortals. So, we finally meet the first of our cover chapter people. The one pictured on the cover was Sato, the oldest of these three brothers. But we learn about them from the frame of the youngest brother, Aldo, who was afraid of dying. And after after he talks about how they're immortal, we end the chapter. Chapter 54 is entitled "Go to Enoshima." We cut to a forest where a man named Toka and an unnamed woman, the woman who was pictured on the cover, hunt a fox. And after he kills the fox, she asks him 3 separate times as he skins, cooks, and serves the fox to her if he felt like he had just taken the fox's life, which he repeatedly says no to. And then she reveals that they will soon be going to do the same thing to Denji, and he agrees. And he calls her master, hoping that he will get to retire her soon due to her having a short lifespan. We cut to China, where a woman named Quan Chi, with an eye patch, she was also pictured on the cover, is having an orgy with a harem of fiends, female fiends. And a man walks in and asks her to capture Denji in exchange for any wish that she wants. She thinks for a moment, and she requests basic human rights and an education for her harem of fiends. Then we cut to Makima and Kishibe as they discuss the woman, Quan Chi, the eye patch woman we just met, Quan Chi, with concern for her and the skills of her harem. Makima says that the biggest concern is going to be the assassin named Santa Claus, who was also pictured on the cover of this volume, from Germany. He's thought to have died of old age, but the two are worried because his abilities have the potential to easily overwhelm all of them. So that's exciting because, considering the things that we've seen both Kishibe and Makima do so far, the idea that anyone has the ability to overwhelm them and especially do it easily is very, very intriguing to me. But we cut to Germany, and an old man is given the mission to hunt Denji, and as compensation, he requests 4 children, 3 of which he wants to use for a devil deal, and 1 of which he says he wants to use for pleasure, which is super fucking creepy, gotta tell you. Huh. But we cut to Denji, who is at home watching TV, and he's wondering why his heart is so wanted and why it meant that the trip needs to be canceled. And so Aki comes over and affectionately just kind of sits on him, and he explains that it's simply been postponed, and that it's so that they can try and push back the enemies so that life can go back to, normal. Which he didn't do air quotes, but I'm doing air quotes because there's nothing normal about the way they live. But, it's normal for them. Right now, this is an enhanced state of abnormality. So, Denji decides that if that's what it's going to take, if the fact that he's being pursued by people is what's going to stop him from going on his vacation, then he's simply going to massacre them all. Which, for me, very logical line of thinking. I say it 100 times. Denji's a simple guy. He's simple, but he's not stupid. And a lot of times, the things that they have him say in the manga are very reflective of that, because a problem is placed in front of him, and his solution is to simply go through it. Which he's made a chainsaw, so yeah, that can be your mindset to things. But with that, we end the chapter. Chapter 55 is entitled "Let's Go," and we cut to a park where we see Aki, Power, Denji, the Angel Devil, Yoshida, Tamaoki, and a hunter named Kusakabe as they berate Denji because he's about to eat food that he just dropped on the floor. They're saying he'll get food poisoning or get sick from it, but it was established back in Volume 2 that Denji's not given enough nutrients. You know, he grew up poor and malnourished, so if there's food, he's going to eat it. And it being dropped on the ground means nothing to him. I ain't gonna hold you, depending on what the food was and what the ground looks like, I'm with Denji. I am a fervent believer in the 5-second rule. There's bacteria on everything. There's bacteria on me. And it's on me. It's on my food as soon as I touch it. It's on my fork and my knife and my spoon and my plate. So, you know, as long as I didn't drop it into a turd or, you know, something that's clearly, obviously very toxic for me and going to kill me immediately, I might pick it back up too. You know, just a bit. Just be honest. So anyway. In a flashback, Makima explains that these guys who are here with Denji, along with 3 other agents, are going to be his personal security, and that they complain that they can't just hide him because devils can find Denji based on his scent. Later, the 3 extra agents that we are expecting to join them, Kurose, Tendo, and Subaru, 2 of whom we've already met. Kurose and Tendo we met. Subaru we were just now meeting for the first time. They get stopped by a car in the middle of the. They get stopped by road spikes in the middle of the road because they're in a car driving towards the location. And then the car crashes into a tree. Afterwards, the 3 American brothers, the assassins that we met back at the beginning of this volume, they shoot them all dead, and then they crack jokes while the youngest of them, Aldo, who threw up earlier, is just horrified by this grotesque violence. He hides the bodies and he vomits while doing so, and then the oldest brother, Sato, transforms his face into that of Kurose, and he works on changing his voice to match Kurose's manner of speaking. And with that, we end the chapter. We open to chapter 56, titled A Curse and a Fist. And we open to Denji and Power eating at a restaurant while the group watches, and they have their usual comedic exchanges and doing a little bickering. And during all that commotion and going back and forward, the woman that we saw in the forest a few chapters ago walks past them. Afterwards, the group runs outside, and the woman explains to Tolka, the man who was with her in the forest, that she has already stabbed Denji 3 times with a nail, and that he simply needs to poke him with it one more time, and that will invoke the Curse Devil. The Curse Devil, which we've met before, when Aki used his nail-like sword against the Katana Man. He lined the sword with him 3 times and hit him with fire, fire, fire. And on the 3rd time he did that, he was able to yell out, finish him, and the Curse Devil came and ripped the Katana Man to shreds and just left him there bleeding. And so, if we take that context, it can be said here that Denji has already had fire used on him 3 times, and now he just needs to be hit one more time for the curse to activate. And so, she then starts to eat a burger very happily, despite being so physically frail. Then we cut to Kobeni and the Violence Fiend, who she is currently thanking for buying her ice cream, and she's wondering why he is so friendly despite being the Violence Fiend. And he explains that he still has a large portion of his human brain left, and many of his memories from when he was still a full human, but he can't remember dying, only that he was saved by Makima. So next, Sato, the man we met last chapter, the oldest of the American brothers, who is currently described as Kurose, pulls up on them, and he orders them to go and report to Tendo and Subaru about, he orders them to go and report to Makima about Tendo and Subaru's deaths, and then he calls them quite gullible for, just taking a hook, line, and sinker. Even though they're not really gullible, you walked up on them looking and sounding like they're superior, so of course they're just going to do what you said do. That's how this organization works. Everyone can die at a moment's notice, so if someone who's their superior comes and gives you an order, you should probably go fucking do it. And later, we cut to Denji, who's really tired from having to constantly move around all day, and he's getting kind of annoyed because he's saying that he feels like instead of being protected, he's really being used more like bait for the people that are supposed to be coming after him. And Aki readily confirms that that's absolutely what is happening right now. But he calms Denji down by reminding him of the trip that he wants to go on, and he promises Power that if she cooperates, he'll get her one reward also. And she requests her reward be that she's allowed to drain all of the blood from a human body until they die. To which Aki says, you can drain Denji. And we end the chapter. We're on chapter 57, which is simply titled Suddenly. Very appropriate, because a few things happen very suddenly in this chapter. Kobeni and the Violence Fiend are riding to meet the main group with the currently disguised Sato. He's still wearing his Kurosei disguise. And when they arrive, Aki talks to Kurosei and asks him to, reconsider his spot on the mission, but he lies, saying that he wants to avenge Subaru and Tendo. Power notices Kobeni's car and jumps into the driver's seat, where she lies about having a driver's license and says that Kobeni stole the car from her and it actually belongs to her. Kobeni protests briefly, but she gets in the passenger seat after being very cheerily threatened by Power. And Sato shakes hands with Denji as Power slams the car into both of them, killing Sato. Everyone's fucking shocked and horrified by this, but his disguise slips away, which gives way to confusion, because now they can see he no longer looks like Kurosei, he looks like himself, Sato. And Tamaoki recognizes him and warns that there should be two other brothers nearby, and that Sato had a contract with the Skin Devil. Aki looks at Power, who claims to have known the truth the entire time, while Kobeni in the passenger seat just kind of sweats and cries because her car was just fucking totaled. As this all goes down, two civilians stand nearby and watch it, but they reveal themselves to be the brothers, Joey and Aldo. Suddenly, Joey gets snatched around the corner by Yoshida, who immediately kills him, and then he leaves the corner, but he disregards Aldo, who quickly put a disguise back on, and he regards him as just a bystander because he says that a pro, if they were the assassins and pros like they were expecting, he would not have thrown up, which we've seen Aldo do several times. So Aldo's in a bad spot right now. He's lost both of his brothers in basically an instant, very suddenly. And we're going to see what that means for him later on. But with that, we end our chapter. Chapter 58 is Yutaro Kurosei. And we cut to a car accident in Tokyo, wherein Cosmo, who is one of the fiends in Quan Chi, the eye patch lady's harem, who up to this point in the story, every time we see her, the only thing she says is the word Halloween, 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 Halloween. And we haven't had that explained yet, but she's got like an eyeball hanging out and is repeating Halloween. But the driver of the car that they crashed into, she makes him repeat the word Halloween, just like her. And so Quan Chi appears, and she guides Cosmo and the rest of her harem into a sushi restaurant, as they all do very strange things while the terrified staff serves them. After Cosmo takes the time to Halloween all of them as well. And we don't really know what it is she does to them yet, so I'm just going to be referring to it as Halloweening them for now. And then Quan Chi decides that tomorrow is when they will start hunting Denji properly. So we cut to Aldo, who is now disguised as Kurosei, being invited into Tomono's apartment, a person named Tomono. And they sit and discuss each other's lives, revealing that Tomono only had Kuroso in his life, and that Kuroso had a mom and a girlfriend who loved him very deeply. Aldo sees a photograph of young Kurosei, and he suddenly just begins to apologize profusely, which confuses Tomono. Later, they lay down to sleep, and they discuss their future plans, and Tomono mentions that Kurosei's dead older brother, he mentions Kuroso's dead older brother, which makes Aldo think of his dead brothers, and how they would tell him in this situation that a pro would get the job fucking done, because he's in this moment kind of starting to waver a bit, because he's meeting people that were important to Kurosei, and discovering, what them killing him is going to do to other people who exist. But he thinks about his brothers when he mentions Kurosei's older brother, and it kind of gets his resolve back. And we cut to the next day, where we see the old German man touching a random person on the street, on the shoulder, and that person does the same to someone else, and that person does the same, and et cetera, until there is a long chain along down the street, and the entire street is now filled with doll-like creatures. He touches his first man, who turns into a doll, and that doll touches other people, and it just goes on a chain reaction. And by the time he's done, the entire street is filled with these human-like doll creatures. And this is a hint towards Makima and Kishibe's earlier conversation where they say that Santa Claus is likely their biggest threat because he has an ability that could potentially easily overwhelm them all. And after watching this display of his abilities, it's quite apparent why they feel that way. We don't know what the extent of these dolls' abilities is yet, but we can see that he can create them with just a touch, and he can create them quite easily. Not only can he create dolls by touching them, but the dolls that he creates can touch other humans and turn them into a doll as well. So it's like a virus almost, like a doll virus, and that's why that's why they say that his power could potentially overwhelm them all. Totally get it. Chapter 59 is titled Mess, and the next day, all 4 groups, which are Toka and his master, the old lady with the curse, Aldo by himself now, the old German man who we saw create devils on the street, and Quan Chi. They all appear and they're ready to hunt Denji now. And so we cut to Makima as she walks through a building filled with doll-like corpses. And she then sends Beam and Prince, who is, we know who Beam is. He was a big part of the Bomb Devil arc, the Shark Fiend. Prince is a spider fiend or spider devil. I don't recall us having it fully explained to us just yet, but she sends them to go and protect Denji and makes protecting the other hunters a secondary objective, which, I mean, is kind of cold and calculated, but this whole thing is about protecting Denji, so I get it. And so at the store, the German man watches Denji from a window and makes his dolls attack the group from a distance once they go inside the store. The dolls' arms all transform into blades, and they get met by Kusakabe, who has a ritual circle going, and he uses his stone devil to petrify this swarm of dolls. And Yoshida explains that if they touch the dolls, even just their clothes, that it will also transform them into a doll. But Aki says there must be a limit to the number of dolls that whoever is making these can make, just as a massive wave, I'm talking about ridiculous number of dolls, break in from all of the windows. So the group runs up to the second floor of the store when Power gets grabbed by a doll, and Denji manages to save her, at which point Kusakabe realizes that fiends and hybrids are very likely immune to this doll creation power, doll virus, or I'm gonna call it the doll virus. They're immune to the doll virus, and as more swarm, a hunter named Nakamura shows up, and he uses the Fox Devil to stop a big wave of them. Tamaoki explains that every building on this street has hunters stationed inside of it, and the true purpose was to draw out Santa Claus. The Santa Claus is the old German man who is creating these dolls, and that he is the most troublesome of the assassins. And given the display that he's putting on right now with these dolls, it's quite clear why they regard him as being the most troublesome. He apologizes for using Denji as bait while explaining that those transformed can never be saved. If you get turned into a doll, there is no saving you, and that the short range means that Santa Claus is very likely nearby. We end the chapter seeing the man send in more dolls while the other 3 groups of assassins all prepare to attack. Chapter 60 is titled Quan Chi and Fiend's 49-person massacre. Last chapter we got a display of Santa Claus's ability, and that was very wild and impressive. This time, we're going to take a look at what Quan Chi can do. And, girl, listen. This is a mild spoiler, but later on it's going to be revealed that she is referred to as the first devil hunter. And we're going to see why. So, more dolls are created, and they move into the store as the dolls get more sophisticated and dodge the Fox Devil's attacks. The Angel Devil uses 5 years of his stored lifespan to create a weapon that he uses to take out several of the dolls all at once. And someone asks him why he hadn't done that already, but he says that he has his reasons for not having done so previously. Outside, a group of hunters appears to help, but they are stopped by Quan Chi and her girls. And Quan Chi draws one of her blades. She carries around these blades on her back, takes out one of her blades, and she dashes forward towards the second floor of the store instantly. Doing so slices both of the hunters in half and slices all the dolls in her way to shreds, but it also breaks her sword. Aki sees a future vision of what's to come next, and he warns the others as he and the Angel Devil only barely manage to block her next attack, and they get knocked to the ground. Nakamura, who reacts a little too slowly, is beheaded by Quan Chi, and Quan Chi stands up to look at Denji in power. Chapter 61 is titled News Reporter, and we see Quan Chi's harem is standing outside of the store, and they're still destroying the remaining dolls while they wait for her. And they're approached by Kishibe, Kobeni, and the Violence Fiend. One of the fiends, named Pinksty, she uses her ability, which manifests as a big ponytail with like a hole in the middle of the end of it that she uses like a scope, and she aims it at Kishibe, who she determines to have contracts with the Needle, Claw, and Knife Devils, but she regards him as harmless because he's lost so many body parts to have these contracts. But he just continues to slowly approach them as he gets ready to fight. We've already had established that Kishibe is regarded as the strongest devil hunter. That may have something to do with him having 3 devil contracts. That may have something to do with him being able to be a badass despite missing however unknown many body parts due to having so many contracts. But we cut to the inside where we see Angel, Devil, and Aki have been knocked out, and the rest of the group are reacting to Quan Chi. She kicks Denji into the air, and she knocks out Kusakabe and Tamaoki, and then she moves towards Yoshida, who summons an octopus devil to take the majority of the force from her hit before he creates an ink cloud to fill the room. And he tries to sneak attack her from behind, but Quan Chi is a bad bitch, like a bad bitch, and so she knocks him down. And before she can kill him, Kishibe walks in, having taken Long and Pinksy both hostage. So much for disregarding him as harmless. Kishibe orders Denji and Power, who were playing dead, to secure the hostage that he has, and Kishibe and Quan Chi, who have been revealed at this point to be old colleagues, they take a seat and have a conversation to just talk about what's happening. They discuss old bullshit. They verbally discuss old bullshit out loud using their actual words. Meanwhile, Kishibe is writing on a notepad to discuss silently, saying that Makima is listening and that he will free Quan Chi if she helps him to kill Makima. But she says that she won't get involved because ignorance is bliss. And as they talk, Aldo enters and he shoots at Denji, who Kishibe kicks to get out of the way. And Long uses this instance to free herself by grappling Denji. Kishibe and Quan Chi are, in the next instant, Kishibe and Quan Chi are now back at each other's throats. And with that, the volume ends. I gotta say, this arc is super exciting. I called it a mega arc for a reason. It was all of this volume. It will be all of volume 8 as well. I can't wait to discuss it with you guys further because there's just so much going on. You've got the doll virus from Santa Claus. You've got the impending curse from Toka and his old lady. He only has to stab Denji with a nail one more time, and I have no reason to believe that won't come to pass. We've got Aldo, who started off seeming like a little bit of a bitch, but he seems like he's gotten his determination together and is now here to fight. And we got Quan Chi, who boy, she came in hot, but in the next volume she just gets hotter. Let me tell you. Again, I spoiled it briefly already, but she is referred to as the first devil hunter, and boy, she's wild. But anyway, how did you guys feel about the chapter? How would you guys feel about the volume, rather? How did you feel about my review of it? Please get in the comments. Let me know if you liked it. In the meantime, please like, share, and subscribe to the videos and my channels for more content. I'll be coming to you again soon with my Volume 8 review. Please stay tuned and join me next time. Bye.